Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with us this week, we have Craig Toone. Hello.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. Can you tell the audience a little sort of short summary, a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, as Sam said, my name is Craig Toone, and I am the founder, creator, and publisher of Rush Car Magazine, which is it's a quarterly magazine, high-end, dedicated towards modern classic cars and a little sprinkling of new performance cars. I think, without going, I think the easiest way to summarise us is to say we're sort of heavily inspired by Evo magazine and the much missed modern classics. So it's trying to create a hybrid publication of those two.
And in your sort of journey, have you had a background in publishing? Like, where has this sort of come from? Where has this idea come from?
Absolutely none. So this is a passion project that has just spiraled and got completely out of hand, and I just don't know when to quit, mate. Basically, I have a 9 to 5. In the real world, I am a quality assurance engineer in the oil and gas industry.
Okay.
And by moonlight, I am a magazine publisher now. So, but it all came about, must be going back 4, maybe 5 years ago now. I went on a road trip with some really good buddies up around the NC 500 before it came the caravan infested. So when times were good, the roads were clear. We got exceptional weather. The cars, the company, just the tarmac and the topography of Scotland is just absolutely insane. And I basically had an epiphany because one of the guys was filming it for his YouTube channel. And it just sort of inspired me to sort of like journal the trip, because I've always loved writing. Writing's been number one for me. And reading magazines will always be number one for me. I've always had my head buried in a car magazine. So essentially what I did was I just wrote the trip, and as I was driving along, these words were just coming to me. And it was just a brilliant moment without sounding too ridiculous. It was like spiritual, transcendent. I was absolutely just loving this drive. And there was a part of me, these words were just wrapping around in my brain. And a part of me wanted to stop and, write them down. But then the other part, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the drive. So essentially, 3 days after on the NC 500 on my way home, I just had this crazy idea. I'm going to start a car magazine now. I'm going to start the car magazine that I want to read. And I'm going to instill the values that I want to read in a car magazine into this. And in order to do that, so, we all know that print is not a cheap endeavor. And in order to do it, I started out in the digital realm. So I published 4 issues of Rush digitally. And what I did was I hosted them on the website, and I gave them away for free to build up an audience. So as a lost leader, and I sort of learned the ins and outs about because I've never done graphic design. I had to learn graphic design, so learned all that. The first issue I ever published was on Microsoft PowerPoint.
Oh, nice, so nice, dude. That part of the process, like, I imagined, I don't know whether you have a similar sort of thing. I've not tried to put together a magazine. I've done some minor stuff in various programs and things, but I've sort of aware from trying to put books together, just for like family stuff and whatever, that you look at it and you look at a nice magazine and you're like, oh, that's pretty simple, clean, good. And then you start trying to do it. How was that process of starting? Like, I mean, there's so much stuff that goes into this, but just like layouts and stuff. Was there an aggressive
Well,
learning sort of circle? Where do you take inspiration
oh
from?
yeah. They're locked up in the darkest depths of a locker in like Narnia somewhere. Some of my very first efforts that will never ever see the light of day again. But by the time I did publish my first issue, it was coherent, and people were coming up to me saying, "You've not done this on InDesign. I can't believe it." And people were saying you've got an eye for it and stuff. So that was really great to hear.
Nice.
A lot of it is just probably because of what I do during the day and the quality side of things. I have to have like really fine attention to detail and stuff, and I've just transferred that.
Yeah.
And what I tried to do was, rather than jump on like design trends, I just tried to do something a bit more classical and keep it clean, keep it simple, keep it timeless was a brief. And I also can't lie, I probably got a couple of copies of Evo and got some verniers out and did a bit of measuring and spacing off the back of that. So yeah, so I mean, those guys are obviously, as you can tell, an absolutely massive inspiration to me, and I would be here if it wasn't for Evo. So if anybody from Evo's listening, thanks for the inspiration. Yeah.
And so, okay, so you've got this idea and you've got some words, and you've started publishing. Is it possible to see the old magazines on the website? Are they on there?
Unfortunately, I have now cleansed the internet of the digital ones, because essentially what Rush XP1 is a mix of new material and some of our favourite articles from the digital. You could call it a greatest hits. But what I didn't want to do was to be giving something away for free digitally and then be asking people, Rush isn't cheap, it costs £10. It's so I didn't want to devalue the brand and the transition into print, although they do still exist. So I can sneak an email later, mate, and you can take a peek.
I'd be interested to see, because I've got you sent me a copy of a magazine, which was quite cool to have a little look through. And yeah, like, okay, so what is involved in a magazine that like I wouldn't know about having not done one, other than you've got to lay everything out?
It's
I feel like there's a lot else.
Yeah, well, essentially, it's not just a kit. I mean, when I started out, I just bought a £300 laptop, Microsoft PowerPoint, like I said, and set a website up on Wix, and got a few mates with cameras and stuff like that. Not much has changed since then. This is still the same laptop now. The website's still built on Wix. I've just graduated to InDesign, and we just take things, a lot more seriously, I think. But yeah, it's weird because I've come in from this with no publishing background whatsoever. So I'm just trying to. I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm grateful to have had those 4 years, and I'm so grateful for the team that contributes to the magazine, because we've had those 4 years now to refine our craft and get us to this point where we can be confident enough to charge money for what we're doing. So like putting the magazine together is, we shoot out of my daily driver, which is officially the world's worst tracking car, which is a Clio 182 trophy. So that is our, So you'll appreciate as a photographer yourself, mate, that might be a bit fair.
Yeah, that ain't no S class.
Might be a bit small. We have got this little bit of, I like to call it, our maverick spirit about the way we do things. And all I do is, we arrange a shoot, we go down, we spend some time with the owner, spend some time with the car, we have a great time. We drive it, collate the story, sub-edit it, and then design it into the magazine by InDesign. And then it was a case of finding the right printers, and we just sell it off the website, and I handle all the, we're doing drop shipping, so I handle it all myself. Maybe next time I might be, subbing a few of these things out, but it's great. It's a massive learning curve, and I really enjoy the challenge and the journey. It's just so much fun, honestly. I'm up first thing in the morning doing it, a couple of hours, go to work, lunch hour starts, laptop comes open and I'm at it, and then I get home, say hello to the wife, and then laptop's open again, and I'm at it for another till about 10 o'clock then, and people go, "Oh, it's crazy how you find this work-life balance." But I just find this energizes me, especially the writing side of things. I absolutely adore it because you get into this flow state when you're creating something, and it's just amazing. Like these words are pouring out of you, and you're reliving being behind the wheel of that car, and hopefully that's transferring to the reader, and it's wonderful to do. Honestly, I cannot describe how happy it makes me. I just want to do more of this. I can't give me more cars to shoot, give me more words to write. Let's go again.
That's super cool. It reminds me of starting out on various things, and you're like, everything's new, you're learning it, and you're like, oh, I'm improving. I can see where I can improve. I can see this and this and this and this. And I know you sent me the magazine, and you were like, and we're working on XYZ, blah 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 blah. You had like a long list of stuff, and I was like, fair enough. Like you've got like. There is a magazine. I'm holding it. If anyone's watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that I've just held it up, and it's probably reversed. I don't know, because cameras like to flip stuff. But it's a weighty tome with a lot of articles, a lot of cars, a lot of stuff. How did you go about? And I guess this has been a journey in itself of getting cars for it.
It's a lot of networking. There's some sliding into DMs on Instagrams. There's some people going, I know such and such a body who has this car, who'd be up for it. And then eventually, as we've sort of built up this little bit of a niche following, people are coming to us now going, I've got this car, and there's so much more we can do at the moment that I'm having to turn down, either due to time or, more importantly, due to insurance, because since we started this, insurance has become so expensive, and there's some amazing cars that we want to do, like a V12 Vantage and things like that, and it's just been out of reach insurance wise. So that's the next mountain for me to attack and conquer now, is getting us a properly professional insurance policy, because I want to make sure that every car we drive is insured, whether it's the £2,500 Fiat Panda 100 HP that's in there, or the 200k Scuderia that's on the cover. So we've always done it with one day insurance, but I want to get that professional policy, so we can't turn things down, and hopefully if we can get the manufacturers on board, if they'd be willing to loan us some press cars, that that comes with so much more access, because you get the car for a week, don't you? So I've got all these ideas rattling about in my head, so I just can't wait to attack and to do them. Yeah, so just
and I imagine like now you've got a printed edition. It's like, as I said, it's pretty weighty. It's got lots of stuff, lots of cool photos, lots of cars. When you say to someone, hey, we want to do a shoot, there's going to be some words and stuff. You can go, and this is what, this is what it's going to be in. This is what it's going to look like. And then they go, oh, I imagine a lot of owners go, I could have my car in there. I could have that magazine on the side at home and go, my car was in there. Like there's a lot of sort of like value for owners.
Definitely. I think like it goes back to that thing about talking about being timeless, and one of the things I like to aim for with Rush is I sort of compare it almost to like a vinyl record. They've become really collectible, and they're like this niche thing. And I love, all you hear all the time is print is dying. It's not dying. It's thriving. And where it's thriving is in this higher end quarterly sector, this bit more independent. And I think that's because people are prepared to pay, providing you're meeting the standards, so that I've ensured that the paper in Rush is, nice and weighty, and all those good stuff. It's a good size, it's 290 by 230 dimensions, and
is that like a sort of standard size? Is that
it seems to be
bigger
a standard
than a normal
size
magazine?
Yeah, so essentially it's the same dimensions as your Magneto, your Road Rat, or your Verka.
like how does the publishing and stuff like that? Did you just like Google a bunch of publishing companies, or did you look up existing magazines and see who published them? How did you find someone to publish, and what is that process? I imagine there's quite a lot in that.
I'm self-published, so all I've basically done is ring around all the printers, established, not necessarily gone for the cheapest price, but gone for the company that suits us well and suits the size, specializes in the size and circulation that rushes. They're called the Manson Group, and they, just essentially put the magazine on pre-order to try and raise a bit of capital to offset the printing cost, and then filled the gap in with what I can find down the back of the sofa, and it's a reality now. And it's strange, I look at it now and I'm so proud that I've created this. It's incredible, and the wave of goodwill that's coming our way, I'm so thankful for. I'm so grateful. It's football, and it really is. It's such an amazing ride, and when like I'm someone that struggles with like face-to-face compliments. If someone gives me a compliment out of the blue, I struggle with it. Like I get this brain fog and I just want to run away. But it's like somebody emails me and goes like, yeah, I've got it already.
I'll just put my hoodie over my head.
But like I've had people emailing me going like, it's like, I really love what you're doing, and please let me know when the next one's coming out. And it's really striking a chord with a lot of people, so that's very satisfying to see and to do. And that is, for anybody that might be mulling it over, just go for it. And I'm by no means an expert in this, but I do have that willpower and that determination to figure it out. So I'll drop me an email and I'll get involved. I'll help you out however I can, and tell you how I've done it. But that's essentially it. In a nutshell, started digital, build that following, just put it up on the website. We're going to go for it, and pre-order, and I promised everybody that was a story in itself. I was promising, first week of December we'll publish and deliver, and it has these, the best laid plans in the world. It doesn't quite happen the way you want it to, and I got the magazines in my hand the week before Christmas, and I'm like, I've got to get these to everybody before Christmas. So I upgraded everybody to first class, and just because I wanted it to reach people, so I was keen for it. But one of the good things about, I guess, being able to handle the distribution myself is I could just write a little note of thanks and stuff to everybody that purchases one, and I think people have been telling me that's resonated, and it's been a nice touch and stuff. So I'm just looking for these little things, and I think it just all comes from never ever not having a car magazine about me every single day. I'm picking them up and stuff like that. And I've always read, and now I was that kid in school that before I could recite the times table, I knew what the 0 to 100 time was on a E36 M3, or how much quicker the 3.2 Evo was. I think we can all relate to that, can't we?
Do you still? I was talking to someone about this the other day. Do you still know that for modern cars?
No, I don't.
And why not? Why do you think not? I don't. I couldn't tell you. I could give you a guess.
There's only so much you could keep up there, and that younger stuff that's just imprinted in you. But I also think that it matters more when you're a kid. The stats and the performance and the power figures matter more. And when you was reading, you always like the biggest, the best, and the fastest. And then as you get older and you pass your driving test, and you're like, oh, in 2 years I'm going to be driving a 911 or something like that. And it never works out that way, does it? And you actually start driving, and you learn that what matters most is the feel and the feedback of the car, and that becomes more important than knowing, the 30 to 70 time in fourth. So I think that information gets replaced by that direction, I reckon.
It is an interesting one, because I think that's it, right? When you're little and you've not had any experience, you sort of try and pick up as much as possible from numbers, data, what's written down, and then you go, well, I know what it would be like to drive this car because I know the numbers, or like, I can tell the difference between this car and that car because I know the numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas when you start being able to drive stuff, and I imagine this has been a thoroughly enjoyable part of this. I feel like you've got to drive a bunch of these cars.
It's not a hard day's work, is it?
And it is like, okay, I might keep doing this, even if it doesn't make much money, because I keep getting to drive cars that I can't afford to buy, and people are letting me drive them in cool places and whatever.
That is a motivation, because there was a period in my life where I was spending a lot of money on cars, like just whether it was modifying what I had, or living the dream beyond my means with what I had on the driveway and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now it's a case of that money is being channeled into this project, and instead of just having one car on the drive, I'm going out and one minute it's a Lotus or a Ferrari, or next minute it could be a Mark 6 Fiesta ST or something like that. That's the exciting part about it, is experiencing all these new flavors and not getting stuck in it. So a lot of my friends will do track days I can't quite afford at the moment because I'm financing this, but then I can go off and the day we shot the 430 scooter here up in the Scottish borders. That was phenomenal. On the way home, it was one of those long summer nights. Then I just said to Ben, our amazing photographer that works with us, shout out to Ben Medlane, he's great. And we were just driving back, popped off at McDonald's. I said, I've got friends that live in Harrogate. He's got an original M2. Let's phone him up and see what he's up to. And we met him in the North Pennines and did a secondary shoot there. Just this crazy stuff on the fly. So there's those opportunistic moments, but it's just fantastic, because this magazine and this project is pushing me to do things and pushing me to places I never expected to go, or skills to learn, like the whole graphic design side of things. I did have some help there from a chap called Andrew Ambrose, who's moved on to bigger and better things. Great lad, and shout out there to Andrew if you're listening. And he taught me the ins and outs of Adobe InDesign, and so that's how I can navigate that. So that was great, and he played a big role in establishing the look from like issue 3 of the digital side of things. So, and then there's I'm not a great public speaker, as you might be able to tell and stuff so far. I'm pushing, I'm pushing myself and learning to do these things, because this matters to the magazine. So I'm enjoying learning this now, and I'm having to learn how to do accounting, which is something that would never really matter to me. And all these crazy little things that are creeping out of the woodwork that they have to learn, and I'm doing it because I know that I want this magazine to be a success, and I want my purpose to thrive. And in order to do that, I've got to force myself and push myself to navigate these speed bumps and then and crack on to the next level. So, yeah.
Have you found that doing trying all of these new things that you had zero experience with before has filtered into the other parts of your life?
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
slightly vague question.
No, I'd like to say that it has, because I'm definitely more weirdly, it's like went out with some friends of my wife for dinner the other night. Normally I'd be quiet and reserved, and they couldn't shut me up all night. It was just chatty. But to be honest, I'd love to say that I have a life outside of cars at the moment. Fortunately, it's just work, rush, and then I have a amazingly understanding wife who believes in it and is supportive of it, and is allowing me to pursue this dream. So,
so cool. That's well, it sounds like it's giving you a lot of energy as well. It's not like you're definitely getting a lot, even though it takes energy. Mm. I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I've realized that actually, with a toddler at the moment, I often feel like I need a break. I need a rest. I need something. Yes. And I've realized it's actually not that. It's I need to do something that recharges me, and that is not doing nothing. It's for it could be going and doing a cool shoot or meeting someone that's interesting or that sort of stuff. And then I'm like, let's go. I'm good.
Yeah. 100%. I'm a big believer in that. Whereas having something that's just your own, or just this little routine that you just enter this thing where you acknowledge that this is for me now, and whether it's walking the dog or funnily enough, picking up a car magazine and reading that,
Yeah.
or just it is, a lot of people go, do you ever burn out? And there are times, where I can go, right, I need to step away now. I need to put the laptop down and stuff like that. But try and have this balance and where I don't burn out. But like I say, when you just get into that state where these words are just pouring out of you and you can see these images, or I get that ping in my inbox from Ben that says, boom, the photos are up of the Clio V6, going out and look at them, and I just start looking at them. I'm like telling Alice and my wife, come on, look at these, they're amazing, and stuff like that. It's just, when it all stitches together, it just absolutely, it's brilliant. And you're totally right. Expending energy can actually recharge you, and it's just got to be that energy that is meaningful and, something that you're passionate about and you care about. That's what lights your fire into, and that's what recharges you.
Yeah. So, before you started doing this, would you say you've sort of had experienced quite a lot of cars before?
I've experienced a few. I've always driven friends' cars and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some sort of professional road tester or journalist. That's driven every iteration of 911 ST, GT3, GT3 RS, Doc 2, and Doc that. I guess if I had to put a title on it, I'd say I feel like I'm more like a car writer than a journalist.
Yeah.
I have owned lots of cars. I've chopped and changed, and what I tend to do is essentially my car history is like playing ping pong. So I go from a modern classic, and I'm like, oh, I love this. This is great, yeah. And then like sat in my commute, which is like 45 minutes long, across the bumpiest, most pothole roads, 30 mile an hour, bumper to bumper, and I'm trying to listen to my favourite podcast, and I can't even hear it because the poly bushes in the suspension are making the dashboard vibrate and rattle that much. You start, and then it's winter and you're cold, and the heating doesn't come on until you pull onto the works car park. So that's the point where I start going, yeah, I want a Mark 7.5 Golf GTI in my life. That's what I really should be driving, because I spent 99% of my time doing these drives and 1% of my time getting up in the morning and just driving for the sake of it. But I'm willing to trade all that. But at the moment, so before I had the 182 trophy, I had Clio 2. Before I had that, I had a GI Yaris. And I was like, I love the GI Yaris, but it didn't have that bandwidth that I was looking for. It was sort of amazing car, don't get me wrong. When you drive, you have to drive it at Mach 1 for it to come alive, for the diffs to start pulling you around and the suspension and everything. It's truly a wonderful car to drive at that pace. But below that pace, when you was just pottering along, it was too good at being a Yaris. So I didn't get that that connection from it. So go back to the Renault Sport. And to be honest, I'm also getting to that point in my life now where I don't need to be the fastest guy away from the traffic lights, and I don't need to be the fastest guy down a back road. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want some of that tactility back in my life. So back to the Renault Sport Clios. And plus I did have a wedding to pay for as well. So that's a minor motivation.
Yeah.
So back to the Renault Sport Clios. And then the bills start coming in, and you're like, I'm paying more per month maintaining this modern classic and driving it than I would be paying finance for a brand new car. So right now, what's caught my eye is the Alpine A110 and those ridiculous 0% finance deals that they're offering at the moment.
Oh, is that what are they doing that at the moment?
Yeah,
nice.
0%. Someone's just put it under my nose today, something like, I think Auto Express have just published it literally just before I walked through the door. It was like $5,000 down and £414 a month on 0% APR. So I'm like, oh no. So I've got this.
Tempting.
I like to call it the evil brainworm, this little voice in my head, and it just says, that's how I ended up going from a Clio 200 because it was costing me too much money to run to a Clio 182 Trophy because it told me the suspension's a little bit more comfortable. They're owned by enthusiasts.
It's probably
going to
like
go up
a little bit more.
Yeah. It's just that one little justification is all you need to do, and all reasoning, all mad maths, it just all comes together in this point, and all reasoning goes out the window. So I am currently daily driving a 182 Trophy, and I love it. But I do need to take those poly bushes out of the suspension if I'm going to keep driving it every day.
that brainworm, I get it, and it's really destructive. Like you're driving along, and I could literally be in anything, like, and it will be like, oh yeah, but if you were in the slightly, the slightly more hardcore version, you would get a little bit more feeling in the blah 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 blah, and you're like, yeah, but not really though. Like in reality, we're talking a few percent difference between these things, and in my mind it's like it's taking it from, and like your experience of going, it's taking it from driving a GT3 RS to a Rolls Royce. That's the difference between my car having Olin suspension and not. You're like no.
That's exactly it with going from the Clio 200 to the 182 Trophy. It was like it's the same engine, but the car's lighter, so it'll do a steady, 30 miles to the gallon instead of 24. And so I was like, right, I'll punch that. How many miles am I doing a month? Okay, so how much will 6 miles per gallon? So, that's £80 a month. Okay, ka-ching. And then it was like, I remember it's, the suspension's a bit softer than it is on the. So I was like, well, I want something that's still fun to drive, but I don't want it. I don't want it to be an isolation box. So who knows? Probably you'll see a post on Instagram next week with me signing on the dotted line of an Alpine or something like that. I'm just no, to be honest, I can't do it. I've got the magazine to concentrate on, and you can't shoot from an Alpine, can you? Because then the brainworm will tell me I need to buy E90 330D Touring or something like that to go alongside it.
Yeah. No, it's and then have you found, because even interested in this magazine, you've driven some pretty cool stuff, like a lot and a huge variety. Have there been any things that have sort of surprised you, or any cars that you were like, actually, that's really cool, I didn't expect that?
Well, two straight away come to mind from XB1, and first of all will be the 430 Scuderia, because I can't lie, probably because I don't have this 20-year publishing or writing career behind me, I do suffer with a bit of imposter syndrome with this magazine. And the night before I drove this car, I was like, all that was ringing in my head was like, this car is worth more than a house. It's 200 grand. It's somebody else's property. Am I going to be able to get over that fact? And probably, get over that fact and do it justice and drive it hard enough and get that experience out of it. Because I'm not going to say I'm a Chris Harris, but I do. One of the things I'm doing is working on my own driving. So I've done driver training with ex-police things, stuff like that, track day training, drift controls, because I believe that will translate into a better article. But without getting too sidetracked, so I was like this. I was basically bricking it and jumping behind the wheel of this Ferrari. And within 500 yards going down the road, it was singing at the top of third, and I just had this massive grin at my head. Grin, the size of the windscreen, and the car completely put me at ease. And it was just another amazing experience. So that surprised me, because I knew it was going to be amazing, but it surprised me by just how accessible it was. And once you put it in bumpy road mode, weirdly how comfortable it was as well. That suspension is witchcraft. So like that, and the gearbox as well. That was unbelievable gearbox. I know people go on and on about how single clutch transmissions are no good, but the Scuderia is different gravy, absolutely phenomenal. So that would be number one. And then on the other end of the scale, number two would be the much maligned Honda Civic Type R FN2. Because we've all seen the Clarkson review. We all know that it's the one that gets slated because it's slower than the one that was before, and it has a beam axle instead of the multi-link and things like that. But this one was modified, not extensively, but just enough. It had smaller wheels on it, so it took the edge off the ride, and it had a bit of engine tuning that really woke up made the VTEC sing, and it had the VTEC crossover point lowered. And okay, the steering's not great, but just as a car and how cheap they are, it was really surprised me just how much fun I had in that car.
That's cool. It's interesting. You saying you felt imposter syndrome, going like, well, I'm not Chris Harris or that sort of situation. And I've come across this in I've felt this, and I think everyone feels it when they're first starting out at anything, don't you? But in this space, I do think it's really interesting that actually, for most people, and a friend of mine, Paul Walker, obviously, Supercars of London, Paul Wallace, sorry, that's his name. He always used to get shit because like he ain't that good at driving. He's better now, but like he's not a track god. And everyone would be like, why are you letting him drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or whatever? And my thought on this, and it was the same with some other characters that sort of perceive that they can't drive. And the real driving nerds are like, well, I don't care what they think. And then you go, well, actually, let's say a 430 Scuderia, your experience of getting into a Scuderia is going to be the same experience as most people, like the majority of people will have when they get in a Scuderia, which is, I've not driven 100 million Ferraris. I've not driven every single version. Maybe the Scuderia is my dream car and I've somehow made it work that I could drive one or whatever, or I'm going to buy it or something. So their first experience, that could be their first really powerful rear wheel drive car. Like, who knows? And giving across that experience to people, which is your experience, and that will evolve over time as as you get to drive more stuff and etc. That is a really like honest experience of probably most people that might like read the magazine or watch videos and stuff like that. And I think that's sort of often, it's a bit sort of like poo-pooed by the people that are like real track nerds, etc. They're like, oh well, I don't know. It's like it is 100% valid, like irrespective of where you are on the chain. Even if you're at the top end, there's always going to be people that are better, and you're always going to sit in a car with someone that's like unbelievable and go, oh, okay, well maybe I should just stop because their opinion is like better or more valid, but it's not.
No, absolutely, and that's one of the key values of Rush for me is being authentic about that. And in the article, it is told from that exact experience, and I think that does give us not necessarily going to say USP, but I think it gives us a bit of a charm because we're about celebrating the cars, right? And being reverent to them. I mean, obviously, like flaws are mentioned, but they're not dwelled upon. And it is that excitement. And what I try to do in my own writing is my favorite kind of writing is the sort of storytelling writing. My personal biggest influences are Peter Tomalin from Evo and Henry Catchpole. The way that they weave a story into it, and rather than just it's like here's a Scuderia, it's got a V8 engine with 52,000 valves and it revs to the moon and things like. There's just that. I try and weave the facts into the story rather than be like this like walking the stairwell, and I will tell, because I think if you're gonna say I'm a driving god or anything. I think people are going to see through you. So I think it's important to be authentic about. So I've definitely conveyed that in the articles, and I'm someone that can still get excited about a Fiat Panda as excited as I'm about the Ferrari. It's weird because you know that you're just going to have a great time. And that's what cars are about.
Yeah.
We can get too serious about it, and
100%.
at the end of the day, it's about having fun. And every car is flawed. There is no perfect car apart. I don't know, maybe some sort of GT3 touring, something like that.
Nah,
There is no perfect car.
I can find problems with anything.
Yeah, there is. But if you've got an open road and a full tank of gas and it's twisty and let's get on with it. Let's have a great time. So
Yeah,
just find fun in anything, and it goes back to that authenticity thing. I think just being authentic in how I talk about story, because I did say that in the Scuderia article, and I said it about the E39 M5 as well. That's also in XP1 because I talked about that because that weirdly was my bedroom wall poster card. The E39 M5 was the one for me. Yeah, it's interesting. So, we all go through these. Obviously, there's a McLaren F1 or twin supercharged V8 Vantage and stuff like that. The F40, obviously, as you'll know.
Yeah.
But the E39 M5, there was just something about that car when I was reading Evo and Top Gear back as a kid, my late teens, and it was just the fact that it was this saloon car that had 4 exhausts. I was like, what, 4 exhausts on a saloon car? It just
must be so fast.
Yeah, it just really captured my attention. And it was like, it's got 400 horsepower. That's insane. It was just this ridiculous, impossible thing. It just couldn't exist. I couldn't get my head around it. So that was so I've been honest about that before I drove the car and said, mentioned the imposter syndrome thing again. I said, I want to be able to drive this car and enjoy it, but also not just worship it. I still want to be able to review it and stuff. So it's just mega, and it just.
What was your overall opinion of it, with going into it with that, that sort of like halo, all this stuff? What did you come away thinking?
Well,
without just completely, telling everyone everything, single thing that.
No, it's fine. What I came away thinking is essentially, everybody always refers to the E39 M5 as it's the best M5, it's the best super saloon of all time. What I came away was obviously there are more capable ones, there are more, certainly faster ones now.
Yeah.
But in terms of what the brief is as super saloon, maybe the M5 CS is finally been the one that's taken it up a level, but I don't think I don't think any of them are more satisfying. I think the blend of ride and handle in the E39 is outstanding, especially for something that weighs so much and has passive dampers. And I think it does have a flaw, which is the steering. The steering's not outstanding, and it has a manual gearbox, but it's a BMW manual gearbox. It's not great. So I've been lucky enough through my father, who's since the 1990s has always had an M car of some sort. So I've been lucky enough. Funnily enough, never had an E39 M5, but I've been lucky enough to be around the E36s, E30s, E46 CSL and stuff like that. So I knew what to expect from the car. I knew how it would feel, what to expect. So it didn't let me down. It did feel like as oh my god, fast as you'd expect it to be when you read those stats as a kid. But we've moved on, haven't we? But it did have this relentless manner about it where it just kept pulling and pulling and pulling. It didn't pin you back in your seat.
Yeah.
But, no, it is one of the all-time greats, isn't it? And it was wonderful to drive again. But I can't, like you say, I can't give away too much because I'm thinking of all these little things in my head, but that I could say, but
Yeah.
I don't want to give spend the cannon.
It's interesting. Well, you mentioned the M5 CS, and the M5 CS has had pretty unanimous praise from a lot of people. As it has there's some fundamentals of it that I look at and go like, that kind of annoys me. And this is purely from like but if I was to buy and own that car, for example, I look at the sports seats in it. Have you sat in a modern BMW with those seats? They're like they're quite.
They're horrible. I'm not a fan of them. Sorry.
They're quite good when you're in them.
You're in it.
They're all right when you're in them.
It. Yeah,
but getting in, you're gonna smash it. Like you're gonna hit something solid on the way in. And then it's only got 2 seats, and they're like sort of semi-bucket seats in the back. And that would sort of annoy the practical side of me. I'd like, well, yeah, okay, it's not that convenient. I'd rather just have a normal bench, whatever. But I'd love to have a go in one at some point. Everyone says it's great, so it's not going to be shit, is it?
No, it's been wax lyrical about it, and we know it's going to be amazing. But there is that point where, like, how many of us might be better off with an M5 competition, really, realistically,
Oh, so, probably, yeah.
So
for a lot less money.
Which the brainworm has now just started ticking over, going, how much does an M5 competition go for these days? And I'll probably head straight to Google after this podcast now.
Yeah, I've found I've driven an M5, and I thought it was too stiff, which this is then like just personal preference. I just thought it's just too stiff for me for what when I look at a car, I sort of have a vision of what I think it should be like in like an ideal world. And for me, a saloon shouldn't be really stiff and like backbreaking. It's like, it's fundamentally a long distance cruiser. So it should kind of be really comfy. And then it for me, the M5 just wasn't. But it sounds like the CS is a bit better in that regard. Now, we might be talking tiny, but it sounds like it's been
it's
slackened off a little bit.
It's interesting if you take, for example, like Evo out, it won coated into it, and they were all saying these little differences have made a whole. And then you look at how the GT4 RS did, and then it struggled on UK roads, and then 12 months later the GT3 RS is on the same roads and they're winning the competition. So there is real scope in these electronic damping, isn't there, to do amazing fine tuning, and these car technicians are so good at these engineers, and they're constantly improving and figuring it out. And I think one of the best cars that I've driven and experienced for striking that balance is probably the Giulia Quadrifoglio. I think that's got that really good balance that of suppleness that I think is probably missing from what you've described from the M5.
Yeah. I always find the sort of end of year competitions, and obviously I read them all, watch them all, enjoy all the photography and all the media. I always find them a bit interesting, because they're picking the cars that are available that year, and 100, like, this is the premise of the thing. So I'm not like, it is what it is. But I often look at it and go, okay, but the competition's like, it's not. I'd almost want to do a thing, and I could just go and do it. I say that, I don't think it would be that easy to go and do it, but go right. But what are the real world competitors? What would you, if you were given the money to go and buy, let's say, something in this space, what would you be shopping? Because you would be shopping like 5 years old cars, 10 years old cars, but for different reasons, and you'd have different stuff about them. But you wouldn't necessarily be shopping an M5 CS against a GT3 RS. Like, I don't think that necessarily happened.
No,
but like,
definitely not.
There was a video this week with, what was it? There was M5 CS, the Harris collecting cars lap time videos. Have you seen those? Yeah. There was what was the M5 CS against?
GB12.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that's just not really like fine, but they're not competitors.
No, they're not. They're not, because I mean, you could technically make them competitors on paper, couldn't you? And it makes for an interesting battle, I guess. But somebody who's looking at DB12 isn't going to be looking at an M5 CS, are they? They might already have one.
Not in the same situation. But no, it does. I do love them all. I do love reading them all. Getting the imagery that comes out of them is always awesome.
Yeah,
I'm sure that inspires you.
It's like the highlight. It's as daft as it sounds, it's like the highlight of my year. As soon as Ecoty comes round, it's put the phone on silent, open it, take the beer out of the fridge, or open a bottle of red, and just properly get stuck in and read it from cover to cover. And I still, I've got this massive cupboard of car magazines in the house down there, and I've still got I've still got my very first issue of the Evo. I've got all the modern classics and stuff like that. I love those big, expansive adventures. I think that's the amazing thing that they used to do, and it's tough now because there's not as many drivers' cars, or especially affordable ones, as there used to be in the new sphere. Anyway, and it's tough because we've recently lost things like the Fiesta ST. We've lost the i20N. What is it? Cooper S.
Lost the i20N.
Yeah, that's gone now. They're not making that anymore. Or they're not selling it. Like that. So that's another one I had my eye on, because I thought, with me and Alison, we're hopefully starting a family this year. I thought, that'd be a good trade. It's got 5 doors, relatively economical, still fun to drive. It'll have a 5-star safety rating if I can't quite afford them at 7.5. I keep saying that. The brainworms hypnotizing me. Well,
maybe after the podcast, you'll have sold another 400,000 copies of the next magazine. You'll be like, okay, this could be doable.
Even if I sold that many, I'd put it all back into the magazine. I really would, because I just want to make.
You're sending them all first class anyway. All your profits gone.
Yeah, not anymore. It's 2-3 days for him to get out now. But, there's been a few interesting things on the financial side. So it's still a loss leader at the moment. I'm still subsidising it, but I mean, if somebody opened a bar, you wouldn't tell them, you're going to make money in the first week or anything like that, would you? You'd say you've got to have a business for at least 12 months and before you start to reap the benefits. So I'm under no illusions.
You are already, and hopefully this carries on and goes gangbusters. But even if it didn't, and you had to shut it down tomorrow, you've already had a lot of personal value out of it.
Absolutely, there's that growth, and it's weird. It actually is as weird as this sounds like. Probably going back to that imposter syndrome again. It's taken me a long time to pick up and read the copy I put aside for myself, which it sounds crazy. I'll flick through it, I'll stick my nose in it and go, wow, this smells amazing, that combination of paper and ink, but to actually sit there and read, because all I want to do is just get better and better, and I'll find things and I'll go, I want to change that, and I wish I'd have done this, and I wish I'd have done that, and I guess it probably comes maybe like there's this thing like where people say where you achieve something big and then the brain just sort of takes that energy away from you. Like you've achieved something now, and the motivation sort of ebbs away. And I don't want that motivation to go. I want to do I want to do issue 2, I want to do issue 3, issue 4, etc. And so that's that little thing that will say, if I read this and absorb it all and enjoy it, that I'll go, I've achieved something now. I'm happy to walk away, and I don't want to walk away. Definitely not.
Yeah, I think there's this thing I came across recently that if you, let's say, you've published the magazine, they've arrived, and you're like, right, okay, straight on to the next one. There's like you sort of. I need to be better personally of going, hang on, that was whatever that project was or whatever. That was a bit of a milestone. Like let's enjoy that. Let's like, go, well done. I did this. It's cool. And then you move on. And because if you don't take the time to just sort of go, pat on the back, well done, everyone, we've done well. You kind of just like, you just end up on this endless treadmill without, you don't get so much of the value out of it all along the way, do you?
No, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. The day the truck backed up and unloaded the pallet, and I was like this cool. with the knife, and it was so amazing to pick one out and flip through it and go, this is, there might be one or two rough edges in there that are good that won't happen again, but it's so amazing to just see and cherish, and that's mega. And it turned up on. I pressed the button with the printers to go into production the day of mine and my wife's first wedding anniversary. So I was like, my wife was celebrating our wedding anniversary, and I was celebrating publishing my magazine. So I did have my fun at that point, and went out to the restaurant, and they had to roll me out of the door. I got that drunk, celebrating it. But definitely, it's. I don't want people to get the wrong impression and think that I'm not trying to be super self-depreciating. I look at it and go, oh my God, this is like, how have I done this? How have I achieved it? And I've just got to remember and to thank Alison and the guys that all contribute to the mag, and especially Ben, the photographer, and also acknowledge all the hard work that's gone into it, and acknowledge the learning curve, and appreciate that it's all been distilled into this magazine. And if the lights did go out, you're absolutely right. I'd be framing a cover, I'd be keeping some for myself, and I'd just return to it in a few years and go, do you know what? I did that, I achieved that, and it's really cool to do, definitely.
Yeah. So presumably you're sort of hard at work on issue number 2 now.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously this time of year, and we've had storm after storm lining up. I mean, I've never known anything like it. And I mean, obviously being a photographer yourself, you'll know what it's like this time of year. You've not got the lights at you, you've not got the weather. The scenery wants to have an argument with you because you've not got the nice trees and things like that. So
it's icy.
Yeah. And I mean, it's. Issue 2 is essentially going to have we've already shot the cover car for issue 2, which is 996 GT2. We went up to St Mary's Loch in Scotland to shoot that, and it was the day before that ridiculous storm hit, and just all the roads were flooded. So you're driving a Widowmaker, and there's rivers and tributaries coming across the road, and you're just like. Wow, this is absolutely insane. But the car's going sideways in third gear in a straight line and stuff with it. But it's brilliant. But there's still a story behind that. And I've spoken to the owner. I'm gonna have another go at it in the drive before the issue comes out to give it proper justice. But I remember driving it past St Mary's Loch, and then going the other way was literally a convoy of fast cars, and most of them were GI Yaris's. And right. I'd give anything to be in that right now. They're probably double taking, going, no, it's got to be a replica. That can't be a GT2 in this weather. How mad to that guy, So I think the 182 trophy was definitely faster across the ground that day than the Porsche was, for sure.
I imagine that was probably sort of like good memories, good experience, but almost like that was a good experience once you've got home.
I was glad to make
you got
it
home
home,
and you're
definitely.
Like, that was great.
Yeah. I was glad when I scurried back into my car and then just started it up and just like, I just got calm again then. And it doesn't matter if it's throwing it down in that thing, you still enjoy yourself. So I took the long way home and we still enjoyed it. So it's just, there is one test in the car, funnily enough, on similar roads, the Borders roads, and at one point it was literally like blizzarding and snowing and ice and all sorts got in Andrew the photographer's cameras, so it played havoc with our day. And And
Yeah.
we're all, when we got to the curry house after the shoot, it was like the big Greek test in the thing. We got to the curry house and we're all just ordering the spiciest vindaloo just to thaw out, and things. But then you sat around this dinner table and everyone's just chatting about the cars and the day, and it is literally like, being in one of those end of year tests, and you just like, look, there's just a buzz in the air because like
that's cool.
everybody's into cars and talking to each other about cars. It's just a different level of conversation when you're with your car friends sometimes, in it, than other social circles, and you're all just there for that one appreciation of thing, and there's just a great vibe in there. So,
and you've all got little stories of like something that happened or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, when you came past me, that sounded so good, or all those sorts of things.
Yeah, I had to pander up on two wheels and and stuff like that. So, so there's some stories to tell that cannot be committed to print until what is it? The statute of what's that
limitations?
Statutes of limitations. Yeah. So we start to see a few of them coming out now.
How many shoots do you have to do to fill a magazine?
Well, it really depends. So what I wanted to do was I had a target in mind, which was 50,000 words, which is what we've hit for the magazine. So one of the big things I wanted or I strive for in Rush is, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or anything here, but I feel like ever since the internet's come along, I feel like articles are getting a bit shorter and shorter in the monthly magazines, and what I wanted to bring back was that deep dive, long read, where it feels like it takes a long time to read the magazine. Like, for example, if you read Road Rat, it feels endless, doesn't it? Like you can't.
Sometimes it really does feel endless. Like, I can't. I'm not going to finish this.
Yeah, the next two are out before you've got through it, and so I don't put. I say to all the gang who contributes, I say there are no word counts to adhere to. There are no restrictions. As long as it's engaging and it flows, I will make the space for it.
Yeah.
So, for example, that test of, we called it the Hot Hatch War, which probably thinking back sounds a bit daft now, but what essentially happened was there was four of us who all write for the magazine, and funnily enough, within 2 weeks, we all personally went out and spent $5,000 on a second-hand hot hatch. It was just sheer coincidence. And then, obviously, before the ink is even dry on the final V5, we're all taking the Michael out of each other, saying, you bought the wrong car, my car's better, this, that, a little bit Top Gear, in the WhatsApp group. And we said the only way we could settle this was to meet up in Scotland and drive each other's cars, and to try and even it out, we brought along two other great car people to be neutral voices in all the chaos. So, and the beauty of it is these four cars. So listen now. So I've obviously mentioned the Panda 100 HP. There was my Clio 200 at the time. There was the FN2 Type R Civic that I've also mentioned. And there was a Focus ST225. Now, you'd look at that and go, none of them are rivals. Even people that are spending $5,000 on a hot hatch, who's looking at a Clio 200, isn't going to look at a Focus ST225. They're just different size of classes. But it just created a little bit of chaos in the test. And there was some the weather had its, Mother Nature had its say. So it just spiraled into this thing that was quite an adventure. It's great. So I'm looking forward to doing more stuff like that, and I think it's a cracking read. So I mean, I would say that. Obviously, I'd say that, but other people have been saying to me too, and it seems to be striking a chord, because I think there is that appetite to have a mix of that poster car, which is a Scuderia, and just the real world cars. I think that modern classics especially concentrated on. I guess that's the niche I'm gunning for with that.
Yeah.
Those
I
longer
think
articles and stuff.
there's clearly a huge audience for those types of cars, like more affordable cars, basically, and cheaper cars. Like if you look at Auto Alex Kirsten, like his channel, like it's full of cars that are like $1,000 or less, pretty much, and massive audience.
Yeah.
And it is like it's 100% relatable. Everyone, if you're talking about cars that are like relatively cheap, everyone can go, yeah, I could buy that, or we could do that, or get a couple of mates and whatever. Like it's doable. Whereas I think it's very easy to sort of get lost in and I went through this of like, what's the latest, craziest Koenigsegg, Pagani, whatever, multi-million pound car, and then I don't know. How do you feel about those cars now?
Well, I never really have been that drawn to the mega hypercars. I think for me, like the last sort of hypercar things I really cared for were the people call them the Holy Trinity, don't they? You know, the 918, the LaFerrari, and the P1. But even then, there was still a slight detachment to them for me. And the three key supercars in my life are the F40, the McLaren F1, and the Porsche Carrera GT. You know, and that's pretty much where my interest in these hyper supercars, whatever you want to call them, starts and ends.
Yeah.
What really floats my boat is three categories of cars. It's hot hatches. I love hot hatches because I think it's hard to have more fun in the UK than you can in a hot hatch. The second one is homologation specials, again, because they're just so suited to our roads. And the third one is just really great cars, already great cars that have been taken up another level. So like the Holy Trinity for me would be the E46 M3 CSL, the 997 GT, no, it's a 996 GT3.2, and the 360 Challenge Stradale. Those Honda NSX Type R would be another one. They're the cars that really, really, truly excite me. You know, so definitely. So,
it would be.
So in terms of the new stuff, it's impressive. But I just worry that by the time you find the space to exploit 1,800 horsepower, you're probably going to be out of charge, aren't you? You know, so,
yeah, on the electric stuff.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Luddite towards EVs. I'm you know, people have covered the political arguments round and round, so I'm not going to stick my oar in with that. I do actually like EVs, and I think there will be a time that, you know, car engineers, as I said before, they're extremely bright people, and they're going to work it out, and they're going to make these things extremely fun to drive. I know you did enjoy the Abarth, did you?
No, and sorry, Fear. I really didn't. But
no, it's and I haven't driven one, but I probably find it the same way as yourself. But
it's a fun car.
Yeah.
But ignoring the EV stuff, it's like it is a fun car. My problems around that car were all around me being like, I'm a possible owner for something like this, like a small but like kind of high end EV, and there was just things about that car that I couldn't get far enough away from. That I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Now, I'd love it if there's some people in the audience who've bought one or were considering of buying one and have got some opinions on it, and I mean, like, genuinely are looking at buying one or thinking of buying one or something like that. I'd love to know what you think of it. Because it's different, but yeah, I don't know. There will be fun EVs at some point. I just don't know whether we've had any yet.
There's, you know, that is it the Ioniq, the Hyundai Ioniq 5N or whatever it is. The reports for that were ridiculous. So And I mean, obviously, I know it's going to cost 60 odd grand or whatever by the time it gets to the UK and stuff like that. But I think eventually that will filter down into your Mini Cooper-Es and your Abarths. Sorry if I butchered it. I know how militant Abarth owners can get, especially if you call it a Fiat. Don't call it a Fiat, whatever you do.
Is it a bat? A bat?
Yeah.
Like a bat? Like a flying thing? I think. I'm not sure. Apologies.
So it's crazy, isn't it? And the Taycan's a good crafting car as well. So they will become fun to drive, but whether they can become fun to drive and affordable is a true question, isn't it?
Well, they're definitely the expensive ones are losing value like nothing else at the moment. Yes. So those will become, well, they are already now much more affordable. Like if you want to get a Taycan or something. I've talked about this on another podcast very recently, so I will not dive into it too much. But yeah, I see EVs as day-to-day transport, and they can be really good day-to-day transport. And for most people, with the mileages that most people do, not everyone, I think they're a very good solution. And they're my little one I love. The big ones I don't think make sense at the moment, at least for me. I wouldn't buy an expensive one because the financial situation just doesn't make any sense, and I don't think the technology is quite there. But yeah. Who knows? They'll get there. They'll get better. They're going to get better, and they'll get better fast.
Yeah, definitely. Can't agree more with you. As day-to-day transport, they're brilliant. They're quiet, they're comfortable. They've got that immediate acceleration what you need when you got to pull out of the junction or anything like that. So
you don't have to worry about your heater only working 15 minutes down the road when your engine's warmed up. You don't have to worry about not blowing your engine up
Clio
in the cold. Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, I normally wrap these up with 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
My most memorable driving trip or journey? Well, I've already called that one out. It's going to have to be the NC500 trip that was the inception for Rush Magazine. Yeah. So definitely that. So I could probably give you number 2, which would be a road trip I did on the Great Ocean Road in Australia. I was driving a 1.4 Hyundai Getz. So it doesn't sound as glamorous as it is, but I could just imagine returning to that road in something spectacular when the sun's coming up and having an amazing drive. So that can be the default one for that one.
Nice. Sounds good. If you're going to drive one car for the rest of your life, sports car, and you've got like £1,000 something else on the side, what would you be driving?
So is this an only car, or is this so did you say just
you've
one
got
car
a really cheap, you've sort of got a really cheap other car.
I know.
So you could go, actually I want to be driving a really nice family wagon, and then I'll get my M5 CS or whatever. Or actually I'm happy having something sort of cheap to do the day-to-day, but I want to be driving a McLaren F1. Like, what's it going to be?
This changes every day. So yes, because I was thinking, I thought more along the lines of the 5-car garage that you normally throw at people. So this is a curveball.
That comes.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay, so I'll try and think of something that's not on the 5-car garage then. See, if it was an only car, I'd probably default straight to that E46 CSL because it's got that perfect mix of, you've got 4 seats in there. It can be a GT car. It does decent MPG. It's got a ridiculous engine. It's got such a sweet chassis. But if we're going down to 2 seats, there's all sorts. I'm immediately the Scuderia's up there, and then you think maybe Speciale, maybe, and then it comes full circle to Porsche, doesn't it? And it's gonna have to be some form of 911 now. 997 GTS is a shout. 996 GT3 with some Manthai mods on it. If I did, I hope I didn't butcher that then.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. No, I'll go for an NSX Type R. That's what I'm going for. Honda NSX Type
nice.
R.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it's got that usable amount of power and lightness that you can exploit on the public road. Definitely, if I'd have ended up going for something with 550 horsepower, I think going back to what I was saying before about, I believe every car has a bandwidth where you can use it, and that's why I love the Clio Trophy, because every drive is it's got a bandwidth from 0 to 7,400 RPM or whatever the limiter is, and every roundabout, every junction is an opportunity. So, and I think there's a sweet spot with performance where you can have too much of it, and if you're spending all your time with over 50% throttle, you're not really enjoying the car to the full. Whereas I think the NSX Type R with allegedly only having 280 horsepower is, we all know it's got more than that, don't we? And I think that will be the one where it has the noise, the interaction, the chassis, everything, and the style. It's super rare in it. That's the one. Yeah, go for an NSX Type R. Gen 2. Gen 2.
I like where you've gone with that, because that is, it's very easy to get drawn up and go into it's some crazy high performance thing. But in reality, if you drive any high performance car, you are not, you're not breaking traction really, unless you're kind of quite on it. Whereas as you say, if you can just go into the first roundabout at 20 and be losing traction, you're having a lot more fun.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. You go into any roundabout at the moment in my 182 Trophy, and the back end starts coming round even at 15 mile an hour. I mean, that partially might be my fault for fitting a stiffer anti-roll bar. and making the front tyres bald and then switching into the back so that I get more life out of them. So it's very fun to drive at the moment, shall we say.
Well, I'll rate that. Sounds fun. What do you think is most undervalued car at the moment? What should be worth more?
Brand new. I'll probably say the GR86, Toyota GR86. I think how they've managed to do a custom rear-wheel drive chassis for £30,000 is ridiculous. And obviously the GR Yaris was very good value as well. In terms of, so I'd say that's undervalued. I think underrated, one of the cars I've really enjoyed driving, it's the manual Supra. And again, obviously, daft as it sounds, that is in issue 1, but it's not really a car that set the world on fire, but as a real world car, it's a lovely thing. It's just, I think it's been pigeonholed as this sports car, which I don't think it is. I think it's a sports GT, like a touring car. It's the sort of thing I could imagine jumping in and literally doing the NC500 in, and it engaging you through layers rather than, balls out, hair on fire driving. It's just a nice place to be. The damping's superb. The gear change is great, and I am a sucker for that B58, straight six. So I think that's an underrated car. I think it's just existed in a time where there's been the Alpine, there's been the M2, there's been the Cayman. There's been all these amazing cars that are just ahead of it in the packing order.
Just like the GT86 and the GR Yaris and stuff. There's been other stuff that's sort of around it that's all kind of similar vibes. Right. Most interesting car to you at the moment? We Googling? We looking up?
I'm saying it's the Alpine we've been talking about. It's in my head.
Fair.
Yeah. I can't get away from that. I've busted myself on that already. I can't. And it's interesting me because the brainworm is telling me good value for money. It's telling me it's a comfortable car because it's got that smooth suspension. It should be economical. I can imagine driving it on the daily commute and not complaining. I can imagine that soft suspension soaking it up. I can imagine going grand touring in it. And it'll return good
not much boot space.
Yeah. We've actually shot one for the next issue, funnily enough. And we seem to attract blizzards at the moment when we go shooting. I'll have to show you some pictures on Instagram.
Stop shooting in Scotland in the winter.
Yeah. Well, this one was a Peak District, and every single weather report said, no, it's not going to snow, not going to snow. Get up there, 10-minute window where the sun rises and disappears behind this ominous-looking cloud. It was like a pincer movement. These two storms just enveloped us from the left and the right. And 10 minutes later, we just went, should we go get breakfast, boys? And that's another one rescheduled for the next day. So
that's a wrap.
Yeah, definitely. So that's that.
Right. Final question. 5-car garage, unlimited value.
Well,
it's got to fit into your life, as in, like, you might need a daily of sorts.
I mean, when you go unlimited value, it's easy just to rattle off. I'm having a Singer, I'm having an F1 GTR, I'm having a Lexus LFA and stuff like that. But again, I think I've got to stick to my guns about what I said excites me before, and the values of the magazine as well. So I'm going to try and pick 5 cars that are exciting, but also excite me as well. And the first one, going up the scale, is a Honda Integra Type R DC2, because I truly do believe that on a tight British B road, the hot hatch is a great thing. Now, I know there's going to be people jumping up and down now going, it's not a hot hatch, and I agree, it's a coupe, it's not a hot hatch. However, I've been through all the amazing hot hatches, the everything, the mini JCWs. I've been through so many Clio 200s. I've been through all the iterations of 182, Fords, Hondas, everything. So that would be, Ford Racing Puma. That would be the one that would excite me out of that philosophy, that lightweight, focused, front-wheel drive philosophy. It's got small tyres. It's got a lot of suspension travel. It's got like ridiculous engine and gearbox. It's got a diff at the front. So that's number one. 110 Type R. Okay. Number 2, we've got to have a supercar in there. We've got to have that poster car, that ridiculous one.
Yeah. What's it going to be?
It's not going to be the F1. It's going to be the F40, mate. It's going to be the F40. It's going to be in red, though, I'm afraid. This is my one. Sorry, Sam. It's going to be in red.
Fair enough.
It's just because it's the daddy, innit? Let's be honest, it's the daddy. And it is an honourable mention for the Carrera GT, a very honourable mention for the Carrera GT, but the F40 is the one. It is. It's just, look at it. It's just mega.
And they are fun. They are fun at road speeds. Like, I say road, it's in like normal speeds. They're silly.
Yeah.
You get a lot of enjoyment out of them at like 60, 50.
I get enjoyment out of one at 0 miles an hour. I get enjoyment out of
and that's another an aspect of all cars, looking at them.
So,
right, number 3.
Number 3, well, since I mentioned the Carrera GT, it brings me it's a nice segue to a Porsche, because we all need it's obvious, it's a GT3 of some derivative. And I think I tripped myself up before when I said about the 996 Mante or something like that. I'm going to go for it's tough. 996 Speed Yellow Mante mods, or 992.2. Yeah, 992.2, proper aero on it. And I'm going to have it just in Arctic Silver. Is that the right colour? Something like that.
Nice.
Just quite subtle. Obviously, Club Sport Pack, fire extinguisher, and things like that.
All that jazz,
all
Track
that
weapon.
jazz, mate. Yeah. And I wouldn't, I know I'm supposed to be a hero and say I'd have a manual, but couldn't decide between a manual and PDK. I'd have to test drive them to tell you. So that's on the bucket list. That's to get behind the wheel of one of them, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And you've got 2 more?
2 more, yeah. So we need a track day car in there. And because I'm a BMW guy, we need a BMW M car. I'm less of a BMW guy these days, but that's another thing. That's another whole wormhole to go down in it. But, now, the tempting one to say is an M1 Pro car. I think that would be a phenomenal track day car.
Oh, yes.
Well, it's really tempting to say that because, I mean, they're just mega out there. But
they are cool.
The problem is you're probably not going to be able to get on any tracks, are you? Now, so you're seeing that. I'm wanting to commit to it, but what I'm realising is I'm trying to get a balance across my choices. So we've got front-wheel drive, we've got mid-engined already, and we've got the
rear engine.
We've got the rear engine car. So I think we need front-wheel drive. Front engine, rear wheel drive, classic M car setup. 46 CSL is a choice. However, I'm going to stick to that race car theme, the X-race car theme. I'm going to go for an E30 M3 or an XDTM car. So it's got to be so a decommissioned DTM touring car. I think that will just be phenomenal on track. I think it will be ridiculous. And if I can't have one of them, the curveball is to get one of those. Is it Redux or Redux?
Yeah.
Because that will cover the rest of mod angle as well. But the first choice is the XDTM works car, definitely. So that's my track day car.
Nice. And then what's your daily in this?
So last but not least is the daily. And while we're on BMs, my head goes to an Alpina B3 Touring.
Ooh.
It's got to be green over tan on it with the pinstripes and stuff. It tows a track day car, fits the family in, and it'd be great for rush photo shoots and the soft suspension, everything. Wonderful.
It's got the slightly softer suspension.
Yeah, slight softer suspension, 4-wheel drive, so it works in all weather. And I'd love one of them, and then I'd veer off at the last minute and I'd buy myself a Bentley Continental GT because I don't know, it's weird. It's like that Top Gear did that hypnotic thing to me. Like, I didn't like the Continental GT. I didn't like the Continental. Oh my God, I love the Continental GT, and they just absolutely nailed it with that sentence. And
they did, and the sort of, I say new shape, current shape. It's actually now been around for quite a long time. That transition from the older one and the image of the older car and who was driving and whatever to the new one. I think everyone I know that I can think of anyway, that at least I've spoken to about this, goes, yeah, but I do like the Conti GT. It's a nice car.
Absolutely. So yeah, as much as I do love the Alpina, I think we've got that Grand Touring angle covered there as well. And that interior on that Bentley is just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. Very nice.
I'd agonize over the spec for ages and definitely. That's my 5-car garage. And hopefully if we sell a few more issues of Rush, it might happen one day, eh?
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Cool. Well, thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I listen to it. So it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor for me to participate. Mate. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much.